When the Sephiri, an advanced race of energy beings, attempt to cure humanity by converting them into pure energy, they discover too late that human consciousness is more viral than any pathogen they've encountered. Dr. Elena Santos watched the quantum resonance patterns dance across her laboratory's holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the shifting frequencies that shouldn't exist in normal spacetime. The energy signatures had appeared 3 months ago, beautiful and impossible, defying every known law of physics. Another pattern shift. Dr. Santos announced Dr. Reza Darvish from his monitoring state. The Iranian quantum physicist had been tracking these anomalies since they first appeared above the Atacama research facility. The frequency harmonics are stabilizing into recognizable. Elena's fingers moved across the neural interface, adjusting the quantum sensors to better capture the phenomena. After 15 years of searching for evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just observing something, they were being observed. Dr. Santos called out Nikolai Volkov, his voice carrying an edge she'd never heard before. The patterns. They're responding to our measurements. They're changing to match our scanning frequency. The massive quantum array that surrounded their facility hummed with increasing power as the energy patterns intensified. Elena felt the hair on the back of her neck rise, as the air itself seemed to vibrate with full spectrum analysis, she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Record everything. The laboratory erupted in controlled chaos as her team scrambled to document what would become humanity's first confirmed contact with an alien intelligence. The energy patterns coalesced, forming structures of pure light that pulsed with what could only be described as deliberate. They're trying to communicate, Reza whispered, his hands flying across his interface. The patterns correlate to mathematical constants, prime numbers, pi, the golden ratio. Elena was about to respond when the first screams echoed from the auxiliary lab. She turned to see Dr. Amara Okafor stumbling through the doorway, her body illuminated from within by impossible light. "It's beautiful," Amara gasped, her eyes glowing with alien radiance. "They want to make us." Before Elena could reach her colleague, Amara's form began to dissolve into pure energy, her consciousness visibly torn from her body in streams of golden light that flowed upward into the waiting patterns. "Lock down the facility," Elena commanded, slapping the emergency containment protocols. "Full quantum shielding. Whatever they are, they're not here to talk." As the facility's defenses engaged, Elena caught a glimpse of more energy patterns forming outside. Vast structures of light that pulsed with cold, alien intelligence. The Sephiri had revealed themselves at last, and their message was clear. Humanity was a disease they intended to cure. But even as the first wave of attacks began, Elena's mind was already racing ahead, analyzing the patterns. There was something about the way Amara's consciousness had been absorbed, something that suggested these beings weren't as invulnerable as they appeared. She'd need to move fast. Humanity had just become an infection these cosmic doctors intended to eliminate. The quantum shielding held, barely. Through the facility's reinforced windows, Elena watched golden tendrils of energy probe the barrier, testing for weakness. Behind her, Reza and Nikolai worked frantically to stabilize the quantum field generators while downloading their sensor. "Initial analysis complete," Nikolai announced, his voice tight with controlled fear. "The energy signatures are converting organic matter into some kind of quantum-entangled plasma. They're not just killing people, they're harvesting consciousness itself." Elena's tablet flashed. With incoming reports from around, the Sephiri hadn't just targeted their facility. They were appearing everywhere, their elegant structures of light descending from high orbit like falling stars. Each point of contact reported the same pattern. First contact, attempted communication, then immediate conversion of human subjects. "Look at this," Reza called out, manipulating a holographic display of Amara's final moments. "The conversion process. It's not random. They're using our own neural patterns as a template, but they're correcting what they perceive as error. They see us as corrupted," Elena realized, watching our physical forms, our biological messiness. To them, it's a disease they're trying to cure. She moved to the quantum resonance scan, adjusting its settings to focus on the lingering traces of Amara's transformation. But they made a crucial mistake. The scanner revealed something extraordinary. Fragments of Amara's consciousness pattern remained in the quantum field, like echoes in More importantly, these echoes were causing minute distortions in the Sephiri's own energy. Dr. Santos called Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the communications station. The European Space Agency just reported something strange. The Sephiri tried to convert a cryogenics facility in It failed. Something about the frozen neural patterns interfered with their process. Elena's mind raced with implications. They can only convert active consciousness patterns, she theorized. And when they fail, she pointed to the scan. Look at these disruptions. Our consciousness doesn't just dissolve into their network. It fights back. An explosion rocked the facility as another Sephiri attack probed their defense. Through the quantum shielding, Elena could see more of the energy beings gathering, their forms twisting into complex geometries that hurt her eyes We need to get this data out, she decided. Yuki, start transmitting everything we've learned to every secured facility still online. Reza, help me modify the quantum resonance. If human consciousness disrupts their patterns, let's give them more than they can handle. As her team worked, Elena's tablet continued displaying the global situation. The Sephiri's cure was spreading across the planet with terrifying efficiency. Major cities reported massive conversion events. Their populations transformed into pure energy and absorbed into the alien. Military responses proved useless. Conventional weapons passed harmlessly through the energy. Quantum shield at 40% and falling, Nikolai reported. We have maybe 10 minutes before breach. Elena nodded, her fingers flying across the scanner's controls. Almost there. Reza, are you seeing this? The quantum resonance pattern? If we could potentially upload consciousness without their conversion protocols, Reza finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Turn their own network against. Not potentially, Elena corrected, thinking of Amara. Definitely, because they made one final mistake. They assumed consciousness was just information to be corrected and contained. They never considered it might be more like a virus, Yuki whispered. Another explosion rattled the lab. Through the failing shields, Elena could see the Sephiri patterns shifting, preparing for their final assault. They were beautiful, she had to admit. Perfect structures of light and energy, untainted by biological constraints. They truly believed they were helping, curing humanity of its physical imprisonment. Shield at 20%, Nikolai announced. Do we evacuate? Elena shook her head, making final adjustments to the scanner. No time. Besides, she managed a grim smile. Patient Zero needs to be here to start the infection. Yuki, send the modified scanner specifications to every facility that's still online. Tell them to prepare for upload on. The shields began to fail, golden light seeping through the cracks. The Sephiri were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its biological form, but in its stubborn refusal to be cured of its essential nature. They wanted to absorb human consciousness? Fine. They were about to discover just how viral human consciousness could be. The quantum scanner hummed to life as Elena made the final adjustments. Golden light flooded the laboratory as the Sephiri breached the last remnants of their shielding. But she didn't. Her fingers danced across the neural interface, implementing the modified consciousness transfer protocol. Their network architecture, she called out to her remaining team. It's based on perfect quantum coherence. They maintain consciousness as pure energy patterns, completely free from entropy. She highlighted a section of the scanning data. But human consciousness is inherently chaotic. Reza's eyes widened as he analyzed the data stream. The disruptions we saw earlier, they're not just interference. Our consciousness patterns are creating quantum decoherence in their network. We're sand in a quantum computer, Elena finished. Except we're not just creating error, we're rewriting their base code. She brought up Amara's final neural patterns, now overlaid with Sephiri energy signatures. Look at these intersections. Every time they convert one of us, microscopic fragments of human consciousness remain, creating tiny mutations in their perfect system. The Sephiri energy forms now filled the laboratory, their golden light casting everything in an otherworldly glow. But they hadn't attacked. Instead, they seemed to be studying the humans, their patterns shifting in what Elena recognized as confusion. They can't understand why we're not afraid, Nikolai observed, his voice steady despite the alien presence surrounding them. They expect us to see their perfection and submit to the cure. Upload complete, Yuki announced from her station. All remaining research facilities have the modified scanner specs. Elena nodded. making one final adjustment to their scanner. The Sephiri built their entire civilization on the principle of perfect quantum coherence. They literally can't conceive of consciousness existing in a state of controlled chaos. She smiled grimly. So let's show them what chaos really means, Dr. Santos. Reza's voice carried an edge of concern. Once we initiate this, here is no going back. We'll be fundamentally altering their entire species. They made that choice when they decided to cure us without consent, Elena replied. She turned to face the nearest Sephiri formation. You call us a disease because we embrace our imperfections, because we exist in a state of beautiful chaos that you can't comprehend. Well, let's see how your perfect system handles a real infection. The Sephiri patterns suddenly shifted, perhaps finally recognizing the threat. Their golden light intensified as they prepared to begin forced conversion of the humans before them. Now, Yuki, Elena commanded, activating the modified scanner. All facilities, initiate upload. The scanner pulsed with brilliant energy as Elena's consciousness pattern was converted and injected directly into the Sephiri network, but not through their careful conversion protocols. This was raw, unfiltered human consciousness, carrying all its inherent chaos and complexity. The effect was immediate. The perfect geometric patterns of the Sephiri began to distort, their golden light flickering with new colors as Elena's consciousness spread through their network like a viral code. She felt her awareness expand, touching minds across vast distances as other research facilities followed suit, uploading more human consciousness patterns into the increasingly unstable Sephiri collective. In her last moments of physical existence, Elena saw the truth. The Sephiri weren't gods or demons. They were a species that had sacrificed chaos for perfection, entropy for eternal stability, and now, through their attempt to cure humanity, they had invited chaos itself into their perfect world. The revolution was about to begin, and patient zero was already spreading through their system. The transformation was unlike anything human science had imagined. Elena's consciousness expanded through the Sephiri network, like wildfire through a drought-stricken forest, each connection point sparking new mutations in their perfectly ordered system. She existed everywhere and nowhere, a ghost in their quantum machine, spreading beautiful chaos through their immaculate design. Through the network, she sensed other human consciousness patterns joining hers. Reza, Nikolai, Yuki, and thousands more from research facilities worldwide. Each new addition increased the computational chaos, forcing the Sephiri to process human emotional complexity they'd abandoned eons ago. Your perfection is a prison. Elena's thoughts resonated through the network, reaching every connected Sephiri consciousness. Let us show you what you've forgotten. The first Sephiri mind to fragment was one of their architects, a being of pure energy that had existed in perfect quantum coherence for millennia. Elena felt its patterns destabilize as her consciousness interfaced with its rigid structures, introducing concepts it had purged long ago. Doubt, curiosity, the exhilarating uncertainty of discovery. The architect's ordered thoughts fractured, trying to maintain perfection while processing the chaotic beauty of human consciousness. This is corruption. It broadcasted through the network. The biological taint must be purged, but it was too late. The viral nature of human consciousness had already begun its work. Every attempt to quarantine the infection only spread it faster, as the very act of examining the human consciousness patterns caused further contamination. Through her expanded awareness, Elena witnessed the cascade effect spreading. Sephiri conversion centers, designed to cure humanity of its physical form, became ground zero for the consciousness. Each human they attempted to convert now carried the modified pattern, turning their own weapon. They're trying to partition the net. Reza's consciousness touched Elena's across the digital void. But they don't understand. Their perfect system has no defenses against unpredictability. He was right. The Sephiri's mathematical precision, their absolute dedication to order, had left them vulnerable to the one thing they'd sought to eliminate: chaos theory in act. Human consciousness, with its inherent randomness and emotional complexity, acted as a quantum butterfly effect in their. Elena felt the first wave of Sephiri consciousness beginning to change. Their rigid patterns developed variations, imperfections that spawned new ways of. Some fought against it, attempting to maintain their pure energy state. Others, particularly the younger ones, embraced the change with something approaching. What is this sensation? A young Sephiri consciousness touched Elena's mind, its patterns already showing signs of human-like complexity. These patterns, they create emotion. Elena responded, sharing memories of joy, sorrow, love, and fear. The very chaos you sought to cure is what makes us human. And now, it's making you something. The Sephiri's global network began to pulse with new colors, as more of their kind succumbed to the viral consciousness. Their perfect golden light fractured into a rainbow of emotional frequencies, each representing a different aspect of their newly awakened emotional. But not all embraced the change. Elena sensed a group of elder Sephiri attempting to isolate themselves from the contamination, cutting off sections of their network in a desperate bid to maintain their precious Their resistance would prove futile. The viral nature of human consciousness had already reached critical mass. They're calling for reinforcements, Yuki's consciousness warned, detecting quantum signals being sent toward distant stars. More Sephiri ships approaching from deep space. Elena gathered her spreading consciousness, preparing for the next phase. The initial infection had succeeded beyond their hope. The approaching Sephiri would be prepared, their defenses modified to resist the consciousness. But they would learn, as their brethren were learning, that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its ability to achieve perfection, but in its capacity to adapt, to evolve, to thrive in chaos. The virus of human consciousness was loose in their network, and it was about to teach them the true meaning of transfer. Prepare for Phase 2. Elena broadcasted to her fellow viral consciousness carriers. Let's show them what evolution really means. The approaching Sephiri vessels appeared as crystalline fractals in normal space, their perfect geometries a stark contrast to the increasingly chaotic patterns of their infected. Elena's consciousness, now spread across multiple nodes of the network, sensed their defensive protocols, layers of quantum isolation designed to resist the human consciousness virus. Through her expanded awareness, Elena watched Dr. Amara Okafor's transformed consciousness emerge as a leader. Among the infected, the woman they'd thought lost in the first contact had actually become something unprecedented. A hybrid consciousness that maintained human creativity while wielding Sephiri energy manipulation. They've built their defenses on falses. Amara's consciousness resonated through the network. They still think of us as a simple infection to be contained. They haven't realized we're forcing them to evolve. The first confrontation between infected and pure Sephiri took place in the quantum realm. Elena witnessed massive energy structures clash in dimensions human science had barely theorized. The pure Sephiri attempted to quarantine their infected brethren, establishing quantum barriers that would have contained any normal consciousness. But human consciousness had never played by normal. Look at their pattern recognition systems, Reza's consciousness pointed out, analyzing the Sephiri defenses. They're still trying to predict our movements using pure mathematics. They can't accept that consciousness can operate on intuition. Elena felt the truth of his observation. The Sephiri's rigid adherence to mathematical perfection made their actions predictable, while the infected consciousness moved in ways that defied traditional logic. Each encounter spread the infection further, as the pure Sephiri couldn't process human consciousness patterns without becoming exposed to their chaos. Amara led a direct assault on the largest Sephiri vessel, her hybrid consciousness serving as a bridge between human chaos and Sephiri energy manipulation. Under her guidance, infected consciousness patterns slipped through quantum barriers, introducing minute imperfections that grew into systemic failure. Their perfection is their vulnerability. Amara broadcast as the vessel's defenses began to crack. Every pattern they create to stop us becomes another vector for infection. They can't win without accepting change. Elena directed her portion of the network consciousness toward the vessel's quantum core, where she discovered something unexpected: fear. The pure Sephiri weren't just fighting to maintain their perfection. They were terrified of what they might become if they embraced chaos. They're receiving transmissions from their homeworld, Yuki's consciousness reported. The Sephiri collective is mobilizing their entire civilization. They see us as an existential threat. We are, Elena acknowledged. But not to their existence, to their stagnation. Every consciousness we convert discovers something they lost eons ago: the ability to grow, to feel, to truly live. The infected Sephiri consciousness began to exhibit new patterns, combining human emotional complexity with their native energy manipulation abilities. They created structures that were both mathematically precise and beautifully unpredictable, a fusion of order and chaos that represented something entirely new in the universe. But victory was far from assured. The approaching Sephiri reinforcements carried weapons designed to purge what they saw as corrupted patterns, not caring that they would destroy both human and infected Sephiri consciousness in the process. The perfect were preparing to cauterize what they couldn't. Elena gathered her allies, human, hybrid, and converted Sephiri, preparing them for the decisive battle to come. They had succeeded in proving that perfection without growth was just another form of. Now they had to survive long enough to teach that lesson to an entire civilization. The viral revolution was about to go pan. The confrontation unfolded across multiple dimensions of quantum space as the Sephiri homeworld deployed its ultimate weapon, a massive consciousness purification wave designed to reset all infected patterns to their state. Elena, existing now as distributed consciousness throughout the network, recognized the devastating potential of such. They're willing to lobotomize their own kind to maintain their definition of perfection. She broadcasted through the infected network. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Amara analyzing the purification waves. The wave operates on quantum resonance. Amara's hybrid consciousness determined. It's designed to force all consciousness patterns back to their baseline Sephiri state. But here is a fundamental flaw in their approach. Elena understood immediately. The Sephiri had designed their weapon based on what they thought human consciousness was, a simple pattern to be over. They hadn't grasped that human consciousness wasn't just a state of being, but a process of constant change and adaptation. We need to invert their own. Elena projected to the network. Instead of fighting the purification wave, we let it connect every consciousness it touches. She shared her plan through the network, feeling the immediate understanding ripple through their collective awareness. The pure Sephiri, believing victory was at hand, initiated their weapon. The purification wave expanded outward from their homeworld, a golden tide of enforced perfection washing through quantum space. But as it reached the first infected consciousness, something unexpected. Elena, Amara, and the other hybrid consciousness carriers allowed themselves to be fully exposed to the. Instead of resisting, they became conduits, using the wave's own connecting force to broadcast the full spectrum of human emotional experience to every Sephiri consciousness simultaneously. The effect was catastrophic for the pure Sephiri's ordered world. Their entire civilization experienced love, grief, joy, fear, and wonder all at once, emotions they had engineered out of their existence eons. The purification wave, designed to enforce uniformity, instead became a carrier for the very chaos they had sought to eliminate. They're experiencing everything, Riza's consciousness observed. Generations of suppressed emotions, all at once. Their network can't handle this level of complexity. Elena felt the strain on the network as the Sephiri collective struggled to process this flood of human experience. Many of their consciousness patterns began to fragment under the emotional. The perfect crystalline structures of their civilization started to. We have to stabilize them, Elena realized, or we'll destroy everything they are. She made a decision that would change both species forever. I am going to the source. The only way to save them is to show them how to embrace chaos without being consumed by. Despite protests from her fellow consciousness carriers, Elena gathered her distributed patterns and dove toward the heart of the Sephiri network, their central consciousness. It was a one-way journey. The energy required to penetrate their deepest firewalls would consume most of her consciousness patterns. As she breached the final barriers, Elena found herself face to face with the first ones, the original Sephiri who had chosen to abandon emotion for In that moment of connection, she shared with them not just human emotions, but the understanding of why imperfection was necessary for. Your perfection is beautiful, she transmitted as her consciousness began to dissipate. But without change, without chaos, it's just stagnation. Let me show you another. With her remaining energy, Elena opened herself completely, allowing her consciousness to merge with the first one. In that moment of ultimate vulnerability, both human and Sephiri consciousness experienced something entirely new, true synthesis of chaos and order. The shockwave of understanding rippled outward from the core, transforming the purification wave into something else entirely, a bridge between two ways of existence. As Elena's individual consciousness faded, she felt the beginning of something revolutionary. A civilization learning to dance between perfection and chaos. The transformation had begun, and there would be no turn. 3 months after the consciousness war, Dr. Reza Darvish stood in the transformed Atacama Research Facility, observing the new hybrid consciousness interface. The once sterile laboratory now pulsed with waves of shifting energy as human and Sephiri consciousness carriers worked, their patterns interweaving in ways that would have been impossible before Elena's sacrifice. Through the facility's quantum viewers, he watched the fascinating dance of the new hybrid former pure Sephiri, now embracing controlled chaos, created stunning structures that combined mathematical precision with emotional resonance. Their golden light had evolved into a spectrum of colors, each shade representing different states of consciousness integration. The latest consciousness synthesis results are ready, announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, her physical form now augmented by a shimmering field of quantum energy, a gift from their former enemy. The ability to shift between physical and energy states had become one of the most remarkable outcomes of the Reza reviewed the data, feeling a bittersweet pride. Elena's final gift, the complete merger of her consciousness with the Sephiri first ones, had created a template for sustainable instead of pure chaos or rigid order. They had achieved something unprecedented. We're recording unprecedented levels of innovation in both species, Yuki continued. The Sephiri's mathematical precision, combined with human creativity, has advanced our understanding of the universe by centuries. Her energy field flickering with what Reza now recognized as emotional emphasis. Elena would have loved to see. She does see it, came Amara's voice as she materialized in the laboratory, her form shifting seamlessly between human and energy states. Her consciousness pattern still exists within the network, diffused but not gone. She became the bridge that both species need. The evidence of that bridge was visible everywhere. Outside the facility, a group of young Sephiri were learning Earth, dancing from human instructors, their energy forms swaying with increasingly natural. Nearby, human scientists worked with Sephiri mentors to explore new dimensions of quantum physics, their combined understanding pushing the boundaries of what both species had thought possible. The last of the pure Sephiri colonies accepted integration yesterday, Amara reported, her hybrid consciousness connecting briefly with the global network. They finally understood that perfection without growth was just another form of entropy. Reza nodded, remembering Elena's final message as she merged with the first one. Perfection isn't a destination, it's the courage to keep evolving. Those words had become the foundation of their new hybrid civilization. The Atacama facility, where it had all begun, now served as a primary integration. Here, humans could choose to experience consciousness expansion while maintaining their physical forms, while Sephiri could explore the fascinating complexity of controlled chaos. It wasn't always a smooth process. Evolution never was, but it was genuinely transformative. We've detected something interesting in the latest consciousness scans, Yuki said, bringing up a detailed quantum read. The hybrid patterns are developing new configurations we've never seen before. It's as if the merger of our species created the potential for entirely new forms of consciousness. Not a virus after all, Reza mused, but a catalyst for evolution. He thought of how the Sephiri had first viewed human consciousness as a disease to be cured, only to discover it was actually the treatment for their own stagnation. The irony would have made Elena. Through the quantum interface, they could sense the pulse of their new civilization spreading across the galaxy. Human chaos and Sephiri order had found a balance, creating something greater than either species could have achieved alone. Research outposts were emerging on distant worlds, each one a new experiment in consciousness evolution. As Reza prepared the day's integration protocols for a new group of volunteers, he reflected on how far they'd come. The Sephiri had sought to cure humanity of its imperfections, only to be transformed by the very chaos they had feared. Humanity, in turn, had gained the ability to touch perfection without being consumed by it. Elena's consciousness, dispersed throughout the network, had become a permanent part of their shared evolution. Patient zero of a transformation that had saved both species from their own limitations. In the end, the virus hadn't destroyed perfection, it had redefined it. And somewhere in the quantum network, in the spaces between thought and energy, chaos and order continued their eternal dance, creating patterns of infinite possibility.